Thank you for watching and sending all of your Twitter praise to Ross Cameron 4. If you would like to get in touch with him, you can also see Sky News Richo and the Perrott Report, which is also there for Janine Perrott. We continue our panel chat in a moment, but first the Senator from Queensland, Malcolm Roberts, who I want to show you something that he said on a recent visit to the Great Barrier Reef. He was in full Trump mode and I thought it was awesome. Have a look.
Coral bleaching cannot occur from human-released carbon dioxide because empirical evidence exists to prove that humans are not causing an increase in global temperatures. The Greens are using control-oriented elitist media to push their purposeful destruction of the reef's reputation. Let's make Australia great again for everyone by protecting our barrier reef.
Well, make sure you get the hat, Senator, because I think Corey Bernardi's trying to get a few made as well. Joining us now from Canberra is Senator Malcolm Roberts from Queensland and the One Nation Party. How are you, Senator?
I'm very well, thanks, Paul. How are you?
Very good. Now, I like, you go to the Great Barrier Reef in part to make a point, which is, look, all of this doom and gloom about the Great Barrier Reef has meant that tourism is falling through the floor. You bring the attention of the national media, Pauline Hanson, you're all there to make the point, but the media basically did not engage at all with the reason that you were there. It was essentially sort of a national eye-rolling exercise.
Well, I'll give them some credit. 7:30 Report actually did a very good report on the visit, Paul, and that was surprising, but that was encouraging. Yes, you're right. Some of the other media were neutral, and some of the media, of course, put their head in the sand. One bunch said, you know, we landed 1,000 kilometres from the bleaching that's occurring right now. Well, that's remarkable, isn't it? Because they used to tell us that the whole reef is dead. It's just a bunch of white skeletons. But we've got 1,000 kilometres between us and the northern part that's part of that that's bleaching. And the other thing is we actually visited an area that was bleached 3 years ago and recovered within 12 months. And that was the point of the exercise. The reef is not dead. Tourism is alive and well. Queensland's open for business and tourism.
So what is the consequence at the moment of inflated concerns pushed by the Greens about how bad the reef is doing?
Well, it's a destruction of the regional economy and actually part of the city economy in Queensland as well, because when we have a tour operator who's acknowledged as being an excellent tour operator in Max Allen, who took us out on the boat along with the scientist, Dr. Ali Jones, Max told us that he used to have around about 200 visitors a day. He's now down to around 17. So that's more than 90% drop. We're under 10% of what he used to take. And that doesn't just affect the tour operators, it affects the service stations, the news agents, the chemists, the supermarkets, the motels, the rental cars, and all the farmers that produce food for that area to be sold. It's just devastating for rural Queensland and regional Queensland.
Absolutely. Now, look, you've been in the Parliament for a few months now, and everyone's going to start writing up their highlights and lowlights of it all. You've been there for a while. What is better than you expected about going to Parliament? We'll get to the bad stuff in a second, but what's the stuff that actually, while you were a bloke who was fired up and watching telly and writing everything you possibly could about, you know, how bad the swamp was, what's the upside of the swamp in Canberra?
Well, the upside is that our behaviour has really been noticed. The Liberals were wary of us at first, but they very quickly, and give them credit, they realised that we weren't going to engage in horse trading and bullying and bluffing. We're engaged on each bill on its individual merits, and they really appreciate that. They know that if they treat us honestly, we will respond. And even if they don't treat us honestly, we will still be honest. Labor Party was a bit slow. I think they had a lot more fear of us. So that's the upside, that we're being treated with a lot of respect, and we've earned people's respect. And the other upside is that the crossbench senators are working really well together. We have diverse needs, but we're working really well together. And far from being a rabble and a bunch of blockers, the crossbench senators, apart from the Greens, who we've given up on anyway, apart from the Greens, we're doing a really fine job of working together.
Now, well, we were talking about it with Richo before, and he was talking about, you know, the big stuff. So I've got to ask you, what is an example of the big stuff where One Nation disagrees and is willing to vote against the government?
Well, the really big stuff is that what I've seen is that I knew there was very little accountability in Canberra, but I've been stunned at how little accountability there really is. We've had tens of billions of dollars of climate change initiatives, programs, jokes that have been put into practice without any cost-benefit analysis, Paul. None at all. We've had the backpacker tax in the last few weeks. The Treasurer's staff admitted no cost-benefit analysis. These people are just winging it down here, and it's just so destructive, because what happens then is we tend to have policy based on opinion versus opinion. Look at the climate change, for example. It's all opinion. There is no fact in that, because if there was a fact, and the science was actually being used, there wouldn't be any such policies that are being pushed on the Australian people now.
All right, and just finally here, I want to ask you about something that, look, Twitter's going crazy, so I've got to ask your opinion on something that Pauline Hanson told my mate Andrew Bolt a couple of hours ago about Aboriginality and how people are able to self-identify. Remember, in the census, you didn't have to prove anything, you could just tick the box and it was yours. Here's what she told Andrew. Have a look.
What defines an Aboriginal? You know, there's no definition to an Aboriginal. If you marry an Aboriginal, you can be classified as an Aboriginal, or if a community or the elders accept you into that community, you can be defined as an Aboriginal. And that's not good enough, because then if you make a comment about it, well, what are you? Are you an Aboriginal or not an Aboriginal?
I think we all know where this is going to go tomorrow in the Canberra Press Gallery, but what did you think of what your leader said?
Well, it's typical Pauline, honest and to the point and direct. And it's typical Pauline, she asks questions and holds people accountable, and she did that of Gillian Triggs, I believe, and that's where she got that response. And it's also typical Pauline that she wants to hold people accountable, and that's why she picked us, those things, accountability and asking questions. And what it leads to, I think, is a question about the welfare system. And it's very important to recognise, Paul, that Pauline Hanson is very, very popular amongst the Aboriginal community, particularly in regional Queensland and northern Queensland, because she treats them with respect. And that's what's really important, to treat the real Aboriginals with respect and look at and make sure that the people who are just running along on their piggybacking on the Aboriginals and cheating on the welfare system, that they're dealt with responsibly.
Senator, we look forward to a longer chat when we have more time, and you're not in Canberra, you can stick around maybe for the whole hour. Look forward to that.
That'll be fine, Paul.
See you later. Senator Malcolm Roberts joining us there from Canberra. So I'm here in conversation with Graham Richardson, with Janine Perry.